Halo semua, selamat datang di Mind Slicer. Nama gue William dan co-host gue Chloe. Dan di podcast ini kita bakal ngomongin hal-hal seputar identitas diri, kepribadian, dan psikologi. Hope you enjoy it. Halo guys, welcome back to Mind Slicer Podcast. Hari ini kita bakal ngomongin roles dari MBTI, Myers-Briggs Typology Indicator, yaitu adalah diplomats. Pertama, what do you think of the characteristics of diplomats?
Jadi diplomats tuh, I think they're known for being very much people-oriented in a sense that they want to understand people and understand themselves gitu. Jadi kan gini, dari the traits of diplomats, maksudnya dari 4 huruf itu kan, what they share in common is NF. So N is for intuition and F is for feeling. So this feeling aspect, I think, gives them a really moral compass gitu. I mean, fokusnya tuh ke morals gitu loh. What do you think, Will?
Well, I think for me, there are few of the characteristics of diplomats. One of them is being idealists, especially the introverts. For me, they're likely to be idealists because they have this value structure or even like personal values that they can aim to the world. So maksudnya itu adalah dia mempunyai, ya dari katanya aja sih, idea. Dia mempunyai suatu ide yang dia buat dan apapun itu pengen itu gitu. I think that's idealist, right? And also they have a sense of morality.
Yeah. Terus, by the way, kita belum sebutin diplomats tuh siapa aja. Diplomats tuh by the way INFP, INFJ, ENFP, sama ENFJ. Jadi me and Will actually termasuk diplomats. Because if you guys haven't heard from the previous episodes, I am an INFP and Will is an INFJ. Penasaran nih, sebenarnya why do you think they're called diplomats, Will?
Why they called diplomats? Well, I think like previous episodes, we talk about analysts, where they analyzing like things, right? With intuitions. I think diplomats analyzing too, but not analyzing things. But they analyzing people. So that's why they call diplomats. Like kayak soalnya misalnya kalian kayak diplomat, maksudnya diplomat kan kayak apa sih, orang-orang pekerja di governmental gitu nggak sih?
International relations gitu loh.
Ya maksudnya dia kan lebih memikirkan gimana mengorganizing people, ya nggak sih? What do you think?
Actually, I'm looking at a definition of the word diplomatic, right? And what's interesting is this second definition. It says having or showing an ability to deal with people in a sensitive and effective way. Jadi kalau misalnya kemarin analis tuh dealing with kayak logic and secara kayak things gitu kan yang kamu bilang tuh, bedanya diplomats tuh dealing with people and Nah, and you've sering dengar kayak giving a diplomatic answer gitu. Diplomatic answer kan kayak maksudnya sebuah jawaban yang kayak nggak mau nge-offend orang lain. Jadi kayak they're very careful with people's feelings and they I think it's very true that these types have an aim to understand themselves and others gitu loh. By the way, penemu MBTI kan is if you guys don't know yet, it's a mother and daughter duo, and Isabel Myers-Briggs sama Catherine kalau nggak salah. Mereka tuh MBTI-nya INFJ sama INFP. So ya dari situ aja udah bisa lihat kayak this kind of types tuh pengen ngertiin orang gitu, maksudnya manusia gitu loh. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think if we compare it to last episodes, for example, like analyst itu kan lebih kayak fokus solving like things and solving a problem in the world gitu. But I think kalau misalnya diplomats itu they're more focused on solving human problem, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean, people's problem.
Kayak humanitarian causes gitu-gitu ya.
Yeah, I think so. They're more likely though. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do they have in common, Will? The diplomats.
I think what do they have in common? Well, first and foremost, their cognitive functions is very common because they prefer like intuitions and feelings. Diplomats is basically like NF types, right? So what they do prefer is their intuitions and their feeling judging functions, right? What does it mean? It means that they have a similarity at their top two functions, which very much what do they have in common? If you don't know yet what cognitive function is, last episodes I already like explained it, but in this episode I will go through it briefly. So diplomats have N and F, right? So it's intuitions and feelings. But each types, I mean not each types. Jadi N-nya itu ada dua lagi gitu. Maksudnya ada dua lagi itu adalah mempunyai fungsi yang beda. Jadi N itu ada namanya introverted intuitions sama ada extroverted intuitions gitu. Dan feeling juga punya dua gitu, dua cabang gitu loh. Yaitu extroverted feelings dan juga introverted feelings. Let me explain to you one by one.
Oh yeah, by the way, analysts tuh have the intuition extrovert and introverted intuition juga. Jadi mungkin lalu udah ada sedikit penjelasan tentang NI sama NI. Ya.
Betul. Mungkin yang baru FI dan FI ya. Cuman aku mau jelasin lagi
ya. Iya, recap.
Jadi NI itu is focus on abstractions of ideas. Jadi maksudnya abstractions of ideas itu apa? Karena dia mempunyai intuisi atau bisa dibilang adalah sebuah abstraksi dalam pemikiran, bukan pemikiran juga sih, dalam menyerap informasi, maka dia yang dimaksud dalam ini kan extrovert, I itu kan maksudnya extrovert gitu kan. I in English, so in Indonesian, it means that extroverted. So what it means that they have these abstractions that they can like perceive, and they want to like share it to the world, right? They want to move it outside of their mind and their cognitive functions, basically. Extrovert, as you know, it's like outside, basically, you know. Yeah. And I is focused on abstractions of meanings. Aku ada kayak perbedaan dari NI sama NI gini. Kalau misalnya NI itu adalah thinking outside the box. Kalau NI itu adalah thinking what is the box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's very biar tahu gitu bedanya apa.
Well, aku juga I just thought of something kayak I think NI is very much, you said like dua-duanya tuh abstraction. Cuman kan NI idea, kalau NI itu meaning. I also see this as NI as exploring, and then NI is interpreting, you know. Misalnya kayak interpreting, ya sih, kayak meanings kan sebuah interpretasi gitu. Atau kayak asumsi, kayak sebuah conclusions gitu loh dari abstraction. Yeah,
I agree because I think what am I doing is like they like absorb intuitions and absorb abstraction so much in their head, and they're like organizing that abstractions, and they can like sort it into like this compact or like this simple solutions gitu.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this. Jadi kayak misalnya kamu keluarin ide gitu ke aku, and I think what and okay, sorry, before I jump ahead, like my cognitive functions, like my first cognitive functions as an INFJ is an I, so it's introverted feelings, and you have an E, right?
Introverted intuition, I
INFP.
mean.
Yeah, I mean introverted intuition. Sorry.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And you have an E, right? And E means extroverted intuitions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you have these ideas that you trying to get it out, or like you
Mm-hmm.
say that ideas. So what in my brain is just like this absorbing, you know. I'm not saying
Yeah.
anything, I'm just absorbing it, and it's like I almost like, you know, sort these ideas, and like
Mm.
what's the common thread with these ideas, or
Mm.
even like what's the
Yeah.
best ideas that can possibly like this, you know, many ideas that you have, and it's just like, or probably mixing those ideas, you know, just trying
Mm.
to compact it like, oh, this is the better, and this is the conclusions of these ideas, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
like this simple. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, the way I see it, also, I just remembered something, a quote that was mentioned in the first episode about like extroverts saying something to understand it and introverts understanding something to say it, like, or make a conclusion. I think that can apply to this too. Like misalnya NI, cara dia cari possibilities-nya itu dengan kayak mengeluarkan, kan kamu bilang kayak bringing it out the ideas to the world gitu loh, kayak mengeluarkan gitu. Sedangkan NI, cara dia mengolah possibilities-nya ini justru harus di apa ya, kayak di organize di dalam kepala gitu loh, dipikirin kayak common thread-nya apa, itu kan kayak lebih kayak masuk ke dalam gitu. Ya. Mm-mm.
Yeah. That's right. So ya masih ada hubungannya lagi ya sama introvert sama extrovert. Ya, it's basic knowledge, but it's just like tambahin intuitions-nya gitu kan. Sekarang kan ngomongin abstraksi ya.
Ya.
Yang kayak kamu bilang waktu itu kan extrovert sama introvert doang.
Mm-mm.
Pasti sama-sama aja sih gitu. Ya.
Yeah.
Move on to like this F functions, which is FE, itu focus on values of the group. So what does it mean, values of the group? It means that misalnya I have FE, right? I am INFJ, so I have FE. I'm with people, like these people yang orang A, B, C gitu.
Mm.
And these people like they have this kind of like punya enthusiastic ya, entusiasme yang luar biasa, dan mereka senang dan mereka ketawa. For me, FE, that's what's most important. The most things that's most important is like the values of the group. Like if they're being happy, I'm like also like almost
Happy.
kayak apa sih
Kebawa.
maksudnya?
Kebawa
Sorry
happy.
ya, kebawa happy juga.
Yeah,
Gitu.
benar.
But I think FI itu is more mensortir feelings itu gitu loh. Dalam arti, FI itu by the way, it's focused on values of personals. Maksudnya your own personal values gitu loh.
Yeah.
So you kind of like searching for something valuable perhaps with the world, like outside of the world, and you kind of like sort it. Is this me? Is this me? Is this me? Is this me? You know, like
Yeah.
that's
What matters to
bukan, udah
me?
buang.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have FI first functions, right? So what do you feel about like FI? What
Yeah.
can you explain?
To me, FI is very much like, bener kayak aku lihat dunia gitu, terus kayak aku ngesortir, kayak I feel like FI people very much know who they are, maksudnya identity-nya ya, maksudnya kayak I know what I like and what I don't like gitu. I kind of filter it, bener sih kayak kamu bilang tadi. And beda dari FI itu kayak I feel like my feelings doesn't really depend much upon the group. It's more like what I feel is what I feel gitu. It's a very personal thing gitu loh. And this tendency of FI kind of makes people that have a FI deep in their emotions gitu loh, yang kayak it's kind of heavy, you know, yang kayak sedih, terus kayak internalized, udah feeling terus internal lagi gitu kan, kayak heavy gitu menurut aku ya. There's this yes gitu.
Yeah. But do you agree if it's like this? For example, like yang waktu itu kita pernah ngomongin di episode 1 kalau nggak salah, kayak ada orang yang nggak makan, orang miskin, terus abis itu dia kayak besok bisa nggak makan, but then ada orang depan dia dompetnya jatuh. Kalau misalnya FI pasti dikembaliin gitu, maksudnya dompetnya ke orang itu kayak this is like I don't wanna do this. Maksudnya it's just like values of the group as in like what surrounds them gitu loh.
Yeah.
But if FI is more likely to think about their families and kayak ya udah keep aja for my families. Do you think that's
Well,
FI?
that depends. If misalnya FI orang ini emang mentingin value their family ya benar. Cuman kalau misalnya orangnya nggak, balik lagi kan ke personal values-nya. Misalnya aja dia nggak terlalu mentingin family misalnya. Ya udah berarti bukan itu yang consider, balik lagi spesifik kan ke tiap pribadi gitu loh, kayak apa yang matters buat dia gitu. Kalau emang dia values-nya dia adalah untuk mengembalikan itu ya I feel like that's possible juga. Itu balik lagi tergantung ke masing-masing orang values-nya apa gitu. For FI
Yeah,
gitu sih.
I agree.
Uh,
But I have this feeling, I think it's my theory. It's not like necessarily true, but I think it has some truth in there. I think, yeah, for me, for my personal reasons, because that's what I saw. See, kayak as an FE user, you know. Kita lanjut aja kali ya. So, well, for me, so that's the cognitive functions that diplomats use to at their top 2 functions, which is either like NE or NI or FE or FI.
Yep.
The rule is if you have NI, you should have FE. And the opposites. If you have NE, you should have FI. Why? Basically, it's like negative and positive things. I mean, like,
Maksudnya
you
balance,
know what
bukan
I mean?
negatif positif deh. Balance nggak sih?
Yeah, it's about balance. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's about balance. Sama kayak magnet, like magnet juga itu kan negatif sama positif. Ya pokoknya gitu lah.
Bukan negatif dalam maksud kayak buruk ya, maksudnya kayak plus minus gitu deh. Tapi bukan jelek apa bagus gitu.
Bukan.
Iya.
Yeah.
Yin and yang.
So extroverted should be paired with introverted. So at their 2 functions, they have this extroverted functions and introverted functions, but they have their own hierarchies. Depends on
the type.
The types. For example, like INFJ and INFP, the hierarchy is always introverted at the top, and then the second is extroverted, and the opposites. For the extroverted at the top functions and introverted at the second functions. So it's always been like that.
Yeah.
And
by the way, this also applies for analyst ya. Bedanya analis kan kemarin kan NT ya. Jadi T-nya yang sama juga. Jadi kalau misalnya kamu extrovert, pasti yang pertama tuh functionnya misalnya extroverted intuition, pasti secondnya tuh thinking introverted ya.
Introverted thinking, ya. And it goes on and on sampai ke bawah.
Ya tapi ini
sih sampai ke bawah. Ya ntar itu
Ntar,
ntar.
ini kayak
Ya
sebenarnya
itu.
agak confusing sih. We'll have a special episode to sort this confusion out because dulu juga sebenarnya before I got into this, ini yang aku bikin bingung gitu, kayak kok misalnya aku nih INFP, kok aku punya introverted intuition, emang aku extrovert kan, kayak bingung. Awalnya jujur aku bingung soal kayak gituan loh.
Ya ya ya.
Tapi nanti ya
Ya
kita
ya.
sort it out together.
Yeah, they have their hierarchies. They have this like a dominant, all right? For example, like you are introverts. Of course, your dominant functions is introverts, right?
Mhm.
But it's not always like introverted. Like you can't stay at home all day, all week, and you just being like introverted all days. That's not healthy for you. So what it means that you have this secondary functions and tertiary functions and so on to
Mhm.
support your main functions. So it's like
Balance lah.
it's hierarchies, ya hierarchies lah. Ada kedudukannya lah gitu.
Ya, benar.
Yeah. So continuing with intuitive and feeling, NE with FI, it's basically known as NFP.
Mhm.
So they paired like the one that have extroverted intuitions and introverted feelings are NFP. It's either INFP or ANFP
Mhm.
gitu.
Yeah.
NI paired with FE and it is known as NFJ.
Mhm.
Why? It's hard to explain because
Ya udah,
uh,
next aja. Ini kan ada episode yang
yeah,
khusus.
yeah, we'll talk about that later. But it's basically who is NFJ? It's INFJ and ENFJ.
Mhm.
So they're the one who has NI and FE functions.
Mhm.
Okay, we won't go deeper than that because we will talk about that later. So,
Mhm.
what do you think about their strength and weaknesses about these types?
Apa ya? Strength dulu atau weakness dulu nih?
Serah. Weakness dulu deh, weakness.
Weakness. Oke. Denger yang jelek-jelek dulu ya. So, well, actually this one is quite bisa jadi weakness, bisa jadi strength sih menurut aku. Yang pertama nih, they're known to be idealistic gitu. Idealistic is actually good, right? To some extent, but then if there comes a point when they're too idealistic, and then this kind of creates apa ya, a sense of unrealisticness, you know, like always striving for the ideal gitu loh. That's their weakness, I think, which leads to itu dah unrealistic juga. Terus dari itu juga needs apa ya? Another one would be like impractical. So they're very much can be apa ya? Impractical in a way, like irrational somehow. Because like when you deal with something like feeling, which is like values, itu kan something yang quite subjective gitu, yang nggak bisa dibikin rationalized gitu loh. Not like logic, kayak misalnya kemarin analis itu strength-nya mereka kan rational, logical. Nah, kalau NF, diplomats tuh malah itu kekurangannya, kayak mereka tuh mostly can be quite irrational. I think another one would be, this is for the introverts ya, khusus buat introverts, they can be prone to be not very good dealing with criticism. Misalnya kayak INFJ itu susah deal with criticism dari orang lain. Kalau INFP lebih kayak self-criticize diri sendiri gitu. Kayak gitu. Itu khusus yang buat introvert. Terus apa ya? What else, Will? What do you think? Weakness-nya?
I think what NF means, right? They have this value and intuitions at their two functions, right? At their two functions, it means that they do this every day, and this is how they like perceive or like absorb informations and judging something. What it means judging something, it means that making decisions about something. And I think what it means that probably they need a lot of novelty. So what it means needed a lot of novelty. They don't probably like to be in a situations where which just like shallow
Ya,
perhaps.
benar-benar. Benar.
And they're always like searching for meanings or searching for ideas to like
Yeah.
keep going for life and keep going treasuring life and keep going enjoying life. It's not like all of them do that, but I think most of them really have that functions and that prone to being creative,
Mm.
basically.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think for the novelty aspect, it's like they always kind of questioning kayak, what am I doing? Is this meaningful to me? Maksudnya meaningful or not gitu ya kan? Kayak they cannot just do something that's meaningless gitu. This goes again because of their F, right? F kan values gitu kan. They have to do something that's valuable gitu loh. Nggak kayak cuman life without meaning loh. Ya gitu. And there's a survey that says that 94% of diplomats prefer deep conversation to small talk. And I think this is kind of related to that. Kan deep conversations kind of bring forth novelty and deep ideas, and that's also from their and
Yeah.
just talk about, yes, yeah, prefer not to lah talk about yang kayak superficial things, ya nggak sih?
I guess so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, not always though, but I think superficials. What do you mean? Like, and people who doesn't like to talk about superficials,
uh
like maksudnya NFTP
prefer
atau
not to, mungkin kayak bukan not like sih, lebih kayak they much enjoying deep conversation lah compared to the others lah. On the top of my mind, SJ and SP types gitu, kayak
uh,
lebih suited for that gitu loh menurut aku.
okay, I see.
Mhm. I think
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Nggak, soalnya aku ada temen yang kayak ST juga bisa talk really deep, which
Bisa,
is
emang bisa. Kan aku kan nggak bilang bisa apa enggak, kan aku bilang prefer.
yeah, I know.
Remember guys, it's preference.
Okay.
The survey says 94%, there's still 6%. I mean, can when we're studying about this, it is about like there's a lot of generalization happening, but I mean
Yeah.
it's not for a bad thing lah. Kayak menurut aku. Nah, now let's go to the strengths.
Well, for me, actually,
Mhm.
their strength is because they have this NF, which is they're always exploring values, exploring people, exploring something what they want and what they people need. What people want and what people need. I think they're very, you know, creative because, and again, it's not on concrete stuffs, right? Because this is often, creative things is an and stuffs.
Mm.
Often, not always.
Mm.
There are the creative things is and stuff. It's behind the curtain. For example, like let's talk about Dali, Salvador Dali. For example, like a painter. I don't know. Probably he's an ass, I think. But I mean the abstractions of meanings of it, like for example, like the banded time, right? Yang kayak
Yeah, yeah.
melted time. Yeah. For example, like that and kind of stuffs. Like the abstractions and
Mm-hmm.
movies, of course, because like movies are basically it's just an abstractions which life just compacted into one and
Mm.
have this kind of like message that have these moral values, of course, especially and F types who has this like morality, sense of morality, which
Mm-hmm.
I think you know creative is one of their best strengths, I guess. And
Mm.
they're very empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, empaths. They like to be empaths and like
I don't think
ya
they
karena
emang kayak naturally aja gitu.
iya iya iya.
Uh-huh.
Karena dia mengerti mungkin dan bisa melihat di balik layar, bisa merasakan juga bagaimana memposisikan dia di orang lain gitu dan melihat
Hmm.
values orang lain gitu kan. Karena
Hmm.
kan dia juga pasti melihat apa sih nilai orang itu gitu loh. seberapa metrik sistem semacam orang itu, karena orang kan nggak bisa dimetrikskan juga sih aslinya. Misalnya orang ini lebih bagus daripada ini. Ya, maksudnya jadi mereka mengertilah setiap orang juga berbeda-beda dan lain-lain. They're more understanding, I guess, towards
Yeah.
people. So they like to be, empaths, and I think it's very good strengths of them. And also because they have and functions which tends to be deep and see behind the curtain. And I think
Mm.
one of their best traits is to be deep.
Mhm.
What does it mean to be deep? It means that they can really dig a hole of problems or of humans, like they just
Yeah.
like sort it out, you know. Kalau menurut aku dalam itu bisa direpresentasikan dalam seperti ini. Misalnya kita ngomongin masalah, misalnya kita bisa memecahkan masalah ini gitu loh.
Mhm.
Kita bisa prevail or kita bisa withstand the things in the future problems gitu loh with this same solutions. For me kayak gitu. When we
Mm.
solving
Like,
problems in a deep
is it
way
like
and
using
like
the same pattern, like pattern apa ya kayak
yeah
untuk
yeah
solve
yeah
ya?
have this pattern, creating this pattern that can solve the future problems. So I think that's
Yeah. I want to add actually strengths that you mentioned about creative. I think I'd like to disagree a little bit about like compared to like kayak creative is a very end thing. I think belum tentu because I kind of remember like ISFP itu kreatif juga loh. Terus misalnya ISFP gitu. Itu mereka S, cuman menurutku there's some of very quite apa ya, creative people that I know. Tapi mungkin maksudnya kreatif dalam artinya NF diplomats itu lebih ke arah apa ya, sesuatu yang kreatif yang konseptual gitu loh. Kreatif kan
yeah, yeah,
banyak jenis, maksudnya create something kan itu juga kreatif gitu. Yang kayak banyak ide
yeah.
itu kan kreatif. Cuman ide-ide mereka tuh lebih ke hal-hal yang abstrak atau konsep, sesuatu yang balik lagi kan ke N, ya deep juga itu, ya.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Terus another strength that I find in the diplomats because of their very much nature in trying to understand people and like very much humanitarian gitu. I think most diplomats are known for being altruistic, so they have this apa ya, good cause for humanity gitu loh. Like they wanna help people out gitu loh. I think that's
Yeah,
also one of their strengths, yeah, for diplomats. And this also goes in hand with the empathetic strength that you mentioned before. And I think while they're doing this, like helping humanity, wow, that sounds so, that sounds so like heavy, but they can be very quite insightful people gitu loh. Especially misalnya INFJ, I think they're quite insightful kayak apa ya, and that comes from their N side. But in a way, beda sama misalnya insightfulnya analyst, insightfulnya NF types tuh lebih tentang ya feelings, values, people gitu, insights about that gitu.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree.
Uh-huh. Nah, with these traits gitu ya, Will, what kind of career do you think is suited for diplomats gitu? Or like, what kind of fields do they usually end up in?
Well, I think they might be good at leadership roles. Why? Basically, especially extroverts, I think,
Hmm.
leadership roles because they understand people, basically. So what leader do is understand people, and they need to understand people. They need to understand the values of the group, basically, especially FT types.
Mm-hmm.
But also, and ENFP also, I think they're very good at, these stuffs, these leadership roles, because they quite, you know, I think dia bakal kayak jadi leader yang asik gitu. Kayak leader itu nggak sih leader asik gitu, kayak
Enthusiasm gitu
Dia
ya.
understand.
INFP
Ya,
ya.
dia punya kayak apa ya, punya empathetic yang luar biasa juga, dan juga dia kayak kind of playful, but I think yeah, they can still lead and have their FI gitu loh, punya
Hmm.
personal values. And I think NF types, basically why they're good at leadership roles. I think they're because they like people and they want to like, especially extroverts, they want to gather around with people and get this excitement, looking forward to the same values. Kan
Hmm.
basically like organizing these people. Basically, I think ENFJ is the most like suited for these leadership roles.
Hmm.
Uh, Obviously, but ENFP can be too, I think. And
Hmm.
introverts sure can be too, but I think this extroverts is one of the best types to lead, I think.
I think it's because
And they
of their
also,
charisma ya nggak sih?
yeah, especially ENFPs,
Hmm.
because they have this almost unspeakable or like almost unrealized potentials to like read the room gitu loh, and have
Oh.
this uh, because F is focused on like bukan sesuatu yang obvious juga gitu loh, dalam arti it's not something that really can't be learned. Well, bisa sih, cuma
Insting aja gitu.
iya kayak mas bukan insting sih, kayak apa ya,
Hmm.
kayak unrealized tata norma gitu loh. Jadi maksudnya they tend to be like good at this reading people's feelings some ways and reading these groups feelings sih lebih tepat. Okay, they're
Hmm.
very good at making each one's everybody happy, what I mean, like they're just yeah, so
Kamu kayak salah bilang, kamu bilang INFP ya, harusnya INFJ ya maksud kamu.
I said NFP ya, aku
Iya,
bilang sih NFP.
iya,
Yeah, ENFJ, I'm sorry, I said yeah, what I mean ENFJ.
ralat guys. Yeah, I think these types, diplomats, also tend to end up in like creative fields, kayak misalnya
Yeah,
becoming a writer or like poets. By the way, Shakespeare is INFP. Terus kayak apa lagi ya?
I
Paint.
think INFP. I
Hmm?
think INFP is very good at writing. I think
Wih, di
because
saya. Am I
yeah,
good at writing?
because they have this rich inner world. Of course, FI is tend to be like creative, perhaps.
Hmm. Mhm.
I think. Oh yeah, I think I want to add though. I think uh FI. So FI, the opposite is NE, right? NEFI,
Mhm.
INFP, and ENFP is, I think, tend to be more creative. Not always, though. Not always.
Wih.
Because, for example, like J.K. Rowling is INFJ, and also ENFJ, there's some novelists I forget siapa gitu. And I think Aaron Sorkin, which is a scriptwriter from social network and that kind of stuff, is
Hmm.
ENFJ. I think, kung nggak salah, dia ENFJ. So not always, but I think INFP and ENFP is like naturally creative. I don't know
Hmm. I
because
think I think what you mean in a more apa ya kayak fantastical way gitu loh ya nggak sih INFP INFP. Mungkin kalau yang kayak J itu kreatif juga, cuman nggak se anak-anak gitu ya nggak sih? Kan last episode kita bilang NP types tuh kayak there's this childlike, and maybe that childlike makes it more creative, more colorful, in that sense. I don't know if that's what you're
oh
trying.
yeah, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I guess so, because one of my favorite novel writer, which is Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Mm-hmm. Asik.
Fyodor Dostoevsky is INFJ, and he writes very very deeply, and I don't think there's fun in that.
No fun. Oh, si
Yeah,
J type's not that fun. P more fun. Yeah. Terus oh iya, another apa ya? career gitu, I think of course because balik lagi kita kan ngomongin they're very much people oriented. They're very good at fields that have to do with people lah. Misalnya kayak psychology kah, itu juga I think very much
Mm.
field that is suited for NF types.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah, I agree. And one of my, I think I like Dr. Jordan Peterson. Yes. I
Yeah.
like Jordan Peterson, and he's in Diplomats, which is
Mm.
INFJ.
Iya,
He's INFJ,
itu juga siapa?
and he's
Carl Jung. Carl Jung juga
Carl Jung. Carl Jung
INFJ.
also. And Dr. Jordan Peterson is clinical psychologist.
Mm.
And I think one of the best career paths, I think, for these types, this diplomat's role also be a teacher, because especially with FE types and INFJ and ENFJ, I think they're very good at teaching because they really like to nurture others.
Yeah, nurture. Yeah, that's the word. I think that's a good word for
Yeah, to nurture others, to plant a seed inside this person or these people, what I mean, and let it grow. Okay. Well, I have one more though. I think they also be good to be a philosopher or a theorist, I think. And oh yeah, I want to, I don't know, it might be a controversial or whatever, but this MBTI types is very, I mean, you don't need and you can't just hold on to these things like something for an answer. You know, like gak bisa dijadiin sebuah jawaban juga karena this is very abstracted and this is very conceptual. For example, like this, as kita ngomongin tentang NF types gitu, kita bakal ngomongin sesuatu orang yang di NF types, like Jesus and Adolf Hitler is the same type.
Yeah, katanya INFJ. Tapi kan itu kan spekulasi doang kan. Ini kan.
Ya itu spekulasi doang. Yeah, again, but then if it is true, you know, if it is, you can see how the spectrum is just like goes over wide, like it's just two opposites people, like this historical figure that just bad and killed the Jews and that, and Jesus who saves himself, you know, for people. But analytically, sure we can, you know, I'll discuss that probably, and you know, spot the difference and spot the mutual, I don't know, maybe some sort of, I don't know.
I think I don't know, you shouldn't define people with their personality types kayak patokannya ya udah misalnya INFJ itu orangnya baik gitu. Enggak, belum tentu. Soalnya kayak again, I think what's more important how we define like good or bad person is through their actions and not their misalnya personality type gitu kayak. Every personality type has a possibility to do bad things and good things gitu loh. Jadi nggak ada yang kayak oh personality type kayak gini tuh psychopath tau nggak? Ya kayak I don't think so, you know, I don't think so. But yeah. Ya gitu deh.
I think you should do it for fun, but if you want to know deeper, you should look at this as only as a cognitive functions, I guess, because it's much more important, I think, the cognitive functions, and we all discuss about that. Because of course kita start with some other yang di surface dulu lah biar bisa ntar deep.
Well, I guess that's all.
This is it.
Yeah, that's all I have to say. I mean, let's just
close this.
Yep. Thanks for listening, guys. Next week we're gonna release the third roles, which is the Sentinels. Stay tuned and hope you enjoyed our conversation. See you.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mind Slicer. See you again next week.